So Inteleon in Pokemon Sword and Shield is like the definition of a sweeper, or a definition of a glass cannon with 125 special attack, 120 speed, and pretty much no defenses with 70 and 65, 70 in health and 65 in defenses. So you're not going to tank very many hits, and if you do survive hits, you will survive with very little health. And 85 attack. It's usable when it comes to priority, which Inteleon has a couple of priority moves, and they're all physical, so 85 attack isn't terrible on Inteleon, but it's not something you want to really invest in. Even though it has access to like Swords Dance, it's not the greatest thing to invest into, especially when your special attack's so much higher. But signature move is Snipe Shot, which high crit ratio, and it cannot be directed, which works really well with its hidden ability Sniper. And with Sniper, you do every crit, you do 2.25 damage. So it's just free damage at that point every time you crit. Instead of doing 1.5, you do an extra 50%. So that's really good when you crit, especially if you build into the crits. Torrent, just a typical water ability. And just when you have less than a third health, your water moves do extra damage. But one thing about Inteleon having 120 speed is compared to Cinderace, you outspeed Cinderace by by 1 point every time. If you have speedy nature, it's a guaranteed outspeed on Cinderace, which is really good. Especially because Libero, you'll do it before his ability has a chance to activate, so it'll be a super effective hit regardless. So it's really good. And Cinderace isn't the tankiest thing, so you have a chance to one-shot it with your high special attack. But one way to run Inteleon is just 4 offensive moves and Life Orb. And I like Sucker Punch in this last slot, and that's why it's not a timid or modest nature. Like, I think you need speed, though, if you run Life Orb, because if you get outsped, you pretty much get one shot. But I like having Sucker Punch. You could also run something like an Ice Shard if you want a guaranteed priority, and you don't want it to... Sucker Punch needs them to attack, but Ice Shard doesn't, but does less damage, so it's up to you what you want. I like the Shadow Punch, or the Sucker Punch. But pretty much 3 offensive moves, Sucker Punch for priority, especially if you switch in and they're already weak, and let's say they're Psychic, or they're just weak to Dark, and you just take them out their Sucker Punch, no investment. Something like an Alakazam, maybe if it's already taken damage, or if it has a Sash or something, a Poltergeist. Or if it's just Sash in general, Sucker Punch will come in and take it out. But Life Orb. I like Torrent, just in case maybe you take a hit. Maybe you take a resisted hit, or... I don't know, maybe you just take a hit, or Life Orb really just whittles you down that much, and you just get that boost. Because if you can get that water boost, that's a lot. That's going to be... Their Snipe Shot's going to do a lot of damage there. You could also replace Snipe Shot. I like Snipe Shot because of the high crit ratio. But, again, you can run Sniper too, but that's a very... Your Sniper... They're both situational, especially in this set. But Sniper could have its uses, especially with Snipe Shot. But I would say, because I think with Snipe Shot, just Snipe Shot, it has a... Where is it? Well, it just has a +1, so it has a... What is it? 12% chance to crit on its own. It's not terrible, but you're playing a very risky... Actually, I think it's technically at that point, it's at +2. It'll be... Actually, no, it'll be 12%. It doesn't matter. Also, I forgot to talk about Inteleon's typing. It doesn't really matter much because it's not tanky at all. But you're weak to grass and electric, and you resist steel, fire, water, and ice. Again, unless you get hit with a resisted hit into like Torrent, it won't matter for the most part because you'll get one shot by most things. And I don't know, you could play around that actually and switch into on purpose, especially if their team's weaker. If you know your enemy's team doesn't have a lot of health and you kind of play it right, the only problem is after like 3 or 4 hits, you'll get, well, really about 3 hits, you'll KO yourself off Life Orb. But if you can play into it and switch in on resisted hit like that, especially late game, and get the Torrent, you can make uses of it. But pretty much 3 offensive moves, Sucker Punch, Life Orb. But my favorite way to run Inteleon is taking advantage of Sniper and getting your critical hit rate up one way or another. I like the Lansat Berry a little more than Focus Energy, for example. But also Focus Energy, Lansat Berry, and Snipe Shot have a 100% chance to crit. So it's a really good guaranteed crit because you'll have that +3 at that point. Because this and Focus, the Berry and Focus Energy is +2, and Snipe Shot's a +1, so it'll balance out the 3. And there's multiple ways you can run this, but Endure, my favorite is Endure Lansat Berry, because if you run a Sash, for example, priority becomes a problem anyway. But I don't like relying on Focus Energy in a Sash versus Lansat Berry, because you can use Endure multiple times. Kind of the Berry and Focus Energy, or Sash and Berry, like something like this, you can really only use once. So, like, it just depends on what you want to do. I like running the Endure just in case something was gonna happen and like you just want to Endure. You can kind of play around it. Or if you think they're gonna use like a really powerful move to try to blow you up, you can just Endure, and then they have to, like, if they use a move like Hyper Beam or something that'll get them stuck in a recoil turn or something like that. You can kind of play around it. I just like Endure versus Focus Energy because you'll use it once because it doesn't stack, so you can't use it. You can never use it again. What does it say? It can't stack. That's all that matters. says it somewhere. But again, I like this set more, just Endure. But what you want to do is get the Lancet Berry gives you a +2, which means you have a 50% chance to crit. Snipe Shot gives you another +1, so Snipe Shot has a 100% chance to crit. And your other two moves, Ice Beam. I like Ice Beam and Dark Pulse. You can also run Air Slash if you want to Dynamax, or Shadow Ball, Scald if you want a chance to burn, Surf if you just want more damage. But I like Snipe Shot because it's the guaranteed crit. But the Sniper, you do the 2.25 because of the Sniper with a crit. So you'll do a lot of damage with Inteleon and everything will crit. And one really good thing about crit is it ignores stat drops and ignores your stat drops, and it ignores your enemy's buffs. So if they set up their defense, they're using Amnesia, it doesn't matter, crit goes right through that. Or if you run into an ally or an opponent that's setting up, you kind of can play around that, and you go right through their defenses, Cosmic Power, whatever, stockpile. One thing about this one though is it has to be a 4th or less health, and Focus Sash is, you can guarantee it pretty much at that point. With a Sash, you can guarantee it. So it's kind of, that's also another difference between them is, let's say you Endure and they don't attack you and they set up or something like that, or you attack, or you think they're going to set up and you attack, and then they attack you and KO you, and it kind of makes it useless. But there's certain ways around that. Most people, you can get the Endure, you can get the berry with Endure off because they're going to attack you most times, especially Inteleon, because Inteleon doesn't have very many. That's one bad thing about Inteleon, it has very little status move. You have Swords Dance, Substitute, Reflect and Light Screen, but Inteleon, Haze, like, most of these aren't good on Inteleon in general. They can Endure, Focus Energy, you're down here, but there's not many things Inteleon can do. Tearful Look, Soak, like, it status wise, Inteleon doesn't have much. So, oh, I hate when it does that. But anyways, it's between you if you want to run the Endure Berry or the Focus Energy Sash. It's just up to you. I would run Speed Nature regardless because you really need to outspeed at that point, because if you get outsped, you're done. But it's also really good though if you can get a Psychic Terrain up before you set this up. That way you don't have to worry about priority at all. But G-Max Inteleon, which I think the G-Max starters are better than the Dynamax in every regard, because all the G-Max starters, Inteleon, well not all of them, but Inteleon, Rillaboom, and Cinderace all have the ability when they Dynamax that all their or Gigantamax, all their stab moves do 160 regardless of the base move. So that's really good. So Snipe Shot will have 160 base power. And pretty much with this one, you just want to, again, Life Orb, max attack, max special attack. I'd put Modest. You can run Timid, but that's why you have Air Slash for the speed. And then Ice Beam for dragons, especially Garchomp, Dragonite, and then Dark Pulse. Again, Dark Pulse, Shadow Ball. You can run Blizzard. It sucks that Inteleon has such low attack, because Acrobatics would be really good if they made it more of a mix. But again, Snipe Shot, 160 base power, and the fact that it ignores abilities. So things like Mimikyu, for example, you pretty much guarantee you one-shot Mimikyu at that point, and things like that. Mold Breaker, Sturdy, not Mold Breaker, but like you pretty much have Mold Breaker on your G-Max move. And Inteleon will do a lot of damage. And another way to run it is just run the Lancet Berry with Sniper and Gigantamax, because you'll just have so much of a health pool. As long as you don't get hit with like two moves that do like 60%, as long as the first move doesn't do like 60% or something like that, you have a chance to do this. This is really high risk, high reward though, because if they hit you with a move and it does maybe 40% the first time, and then it does like 45% the first time, and does 50 or 55 the second. Like if you get a bad damage roll, you can get screwed over. The first move does over 50 or close to 50, you could get screwed over by that. But Snipe Shot, again, what you want to do though is get that berry, and then all your moves again have a 50% chance to crit while you're Dynamax, which is really good. So you'll do a ton of damage with this one, especially with this having 160 base power, Air Slash, Razor, speed. Pretty much you KO everything. If you hit it super effective, you're pretty much KOing it at that point. And it makes it so much better that you ignore stat buildup, and it also ignores drops. So Inteleon could be really good Dynamax, especially if you can get it. You kind of though just have to be careful of what you go up. You have to kind of know the damage you would take against it. One thing though you can kind of predict is just bring it in against something that hits really hard, especially if they Dynamax, and just make sure you survive. You just need to survive that first hit with at least between 25, like 0 and 25. You need to survive with at least 25% of your, well, you need to survive the hit, but barely. Or just play against something that's a little weaker or that can't hit Inteleon super effective. Dynamax, you can probably take 2 neutral hits and get between that threshold. Just depends on what it is at that point. Stay away. One thing that though, like maybe, you just have to be really careful what you go up against with this one. This one you gotta know the damage. But some of the other moves Inteleon learns, like 85 special attack, 85 attack's not terrible, but I wouldn't really invest into it, and it's not worth putting a Swords Dance into it, especially when you have 120 speed. I mean, like, with 120 speed, it would be better. Like, I would not run Swords Dance on this because you have things like Barraskewda, which are just better than Inteleon at being a fast physical attacker. But some of the other moves it learns, again, Acrobatics is really good. Not really on Inteleon, though. It's a good move in general. Tearful Look. U-Turns, I don't really like U-Turn, but it's whatever. Sucker Punch is good for that priority move. Soak. Hydro Pump's good. But with the fact that these G-Max moves, especially Inteleon's, do 160 base power, you might as well run the signature move, because if you undynamax, especially with this one, that's why I like Snipe Shot on this, because if you undynamax, you get a guaranteed crit off Snipe Shot, so it doesn't really matter. That's why I like running Snipe Shot on that one. Facades, whatever. Like, Inteleon has Icy Wind's also good. Icy Wind's good in doubles, like, but I think there are better ways. Icy Wind could be better in doubles. Icy Wind would do a lot of damage though in doubles against something like a Dragonite or a Garchomp, especially if you have your ally finish them off because you're so fast. Icicle Spears, whatever. Bounce, again, is whatever. I'm glad it learned Air Slash though. That's really good. Weather Ball, if you run it in rain, or if you run it on a weather team in general, Weather Ball is always a good option because it has 100 base power and 100% accuracy, so it's better than Surf. And it's pretty much the best move to run in any weather. It's free stab, or it's just a 100 base power move that does a lot of damage. Surf, Ice Beam, Blizzard, high damage, low accuracy, Shadow Ball. I don't like Muddy Water personally. It's a worse Surf to me because it has low accuracy. It has a chance to lower their accuracy, but it's not worth it when your accuracy is lowered like this. Again, it learns all these moves, like status wise, Reflect, Light Screen, Safeguard, like all these protecting moves, Mist, Metronome, like Agility. Like there's no real reason to run most of those on Inteleon because it's so frail. So it kind of like it hits a Light Screen or Reflect, then it gets KO'd. So it's like it doesn't really matter. Also, Inteleon with Inteleon in Hail, for example, would be really good for if you can get Hail in Aurora Veil on Inteleon. That's actually really good to try to get this berry, try to guarantee it. Especially if you run like Blizzard, for example. That would be the one move I would use over Weather Ball and Weather is Blizzard. But like Blizzard in it because it would have 100% accuracy. But Blizzard would be really good. It also has Aqua Jet for priority. I would probably run actually Aqua Jet over Ice Shard just because of the stab at that point. You're too frail for Aqua Wing, double teams, whatever, especially with Dynamax running around. But like this is why if Inteleon had more special attack or more attack, would be really good because Fell Stinger is one of the best moves in the game for physical attackers. Especially if you bring it on something especially being fast, Fell Stinger is really good because that's a free +3 on something that has low health. And at that point, most people don't expect Fell Stinger, which it sucks. Like you could do some things with Inteleon physically, with like if you want to run a physical Inteleon, personally because you're so fast. I would run Fell Stinger, and I would run max health. I would run max attack, max speed, and I would run Jolly because you need the speed. But you come in Fell Stinger / Swords Dance. I just like Fell Stinger, especially if you bring it on something that's already weak, and then like a Sash, for example, or the problem is, I like the Sash for acrobatics, but as a physical move, Liquidation as for stab, and then maybe Sucker Punch. I don't know. Inteleon's weird because physically it doesn't have the greatest physical coverage either, which kind of sucks. You have to run like acrobatics, and then okay, yeah, Inteleon falls apart physically too. Like Inteleon's one of the Pokemon that has like 85 attack is not terrible, but you also do not have coverage, which I didn't realize that. So just now, Inteleon does not learn very many good physical moves at all. Scale Shot maybe in that last slot? I don't know. Actually, in that last slot, I would run Scale Shot solely because it lowers your stats, and that almost guarantees against a physical attacker that you get the Sash, which means you have the acrobatic Sniper because why not? And which just guarantees you get the Sash and 110 base power from acrobatics. Scale Shot. Inteleon like just does not have physical coverage really at all. These are it, but acrobatics good. Breaking Swipe is bad. Liquidation and Waterfall fill the same niche. Bounce takes 2 turns. Acrobatics is better than Bounce. Icicle Spear is whatever. Icicle Spear is the one I think that hits 2 to 5 times. But if it only hits twice, you're screwed. Like Icicle Spear is a risk. Dive is worse. But like it does not have great coverage. Sucker Punch is really good though. Sucker Punch is also an option on this set. You can't go wrong with Sucker Punch. But Inteleon's just weird. Or Aqua Jet. You can throw in an Aqua Jet too for priority. But Inteleon's just, for the most part, Inteleon's a special attacker because it does not have good physical coverage. But it's like the definition of a special glass cannon. But that's how to use Inteleon in Pokemon Sword and Shield.